well, let's get to it because there's a lot of people tossing this idea around. Who's the best team in Big 12 football? And the guy that I'm going to point to is Avery Johnson. We talked about Avery at length on this show the last several football seasons. And I have told you I haven't been a believer in Avery Johnson at K-State. I haven't seen it on the field. I haven't seen it in big moments. And it's much the same feeling I have about Lamar Jackson in the NFL, for instance. I need a quarterback who in a big moment with a championship on the line, a trip to a championship game, a trip to a college football playoff, the Kansas game, the biggest games that K-State's going to play in a year. I need Avery Johnson to be a fully functioning quarterback who can stand in the pocket and deliver the football. Hell, you need him to roll out. Hey, fine, roll out, plant a foot, throw the football. Avery Johnson at no point in his time in Manhattan has shown you the ability to stand and deliver the football. And I think there was a lot more pressure on Avery Johnson last year because Will Howard left, went to Ohio State, and we all know what happened. He dominated. They dominated. The single greatest run we've ever seen by a college football team. Ohio State, led by K-State, cast off Will Howard. Whether you believe that, agree with that, it almost doesn't matter. That is the narrative that was told. Avery Johnson was not nearly the performer that Will Howard was. And at some point, Avery's got to step up. But one thing I know for sure, Jake, is K-State's only going as far as Avery Johnson's going to take him.
Absolutely. And I think, if you watched K-State last year, you saw the limitations of Avery in bigger moments. Now, I think the guy is fantastic. I think he's very talented. Obviously, another year under the belt, another summer of development. So obviously he's going to be a better player this year. But seemingly every single year that he's been at K-State has been the preseason, Cinderella that everyone expects big things from and is in the conversation, but just isn't quite at that top cut. They've always seemed to be a second tier team in terms of who's going to win the Big 12. So again, I'll believe it when I see it. Do I think he's got it within him? Yes, I do. But he's got to show me his throwing mechanics have improved. He has to show me he actually has a command of the offense, right? And it's not just, hey, we're going to either run option or we're going to get the ball out quick. Because that's what I feel like it is for the most part. Yes, is there the occasional deep shot? Yes, the guy plays quarterback. Occasionally he'll throw it down the field. But there's a difference between being a dual threat quarterback that feels a lot more comfortable running and happens to throw every once in a while versus a guy that is just as dangerous with his arm as he is with his legs. And that's what Avery Johnson needs to be, just as dangerous with his arm as he is with his legs. So for me, I think there's proving to do there. I just think that the reason you see the coaches poll lighting it up for K-State is because, coaches look at that offense and they're like, well, it's going to be hard to stop. For me, though, I don't like them as the championship favorite in the Big 12. And I would agree with the commenter who said, this concept of Iowa State getting all these second place votes. Listen, if you're a Rocco Beck guy and you think Iowa State's going to be amazing because they got their top 20 back who all took pay cuts and their coaching staff's got a bunch of continuity on it. Yeah, will they be good? I'm sure they will. But you didn't prove to me last year that you could beat the best of the conference, which would have been BYU, ASU. Like you
certainly Colorado was in that discussion.
Certainly Colorado, in this year, this conference figures to be deeper with the changes that Utah made. I'm not going to sit here and say that Oklahoma State's going to be any better because I don't think they will be, but some people will tell you that. So I just think that we take these coaches polls and we're like, oh man, what do you mean K-State's going to win the league? Now, this is just what the coaches think. And I think if we learned anything from last year, it's hard to predict who is going to win this conference.
Yeah, I'm not telling you K-State's the best. I think Avery Johnson's, from what I've heard and what I've seen and what people have been telling me, Avery Johnson is a different quarterback right now. Again, what do you hear every summer? Well, he's in the best shape of his life, Morty. And let me tell you, well, I'd hope on July 10th that Avery Johnson's in the best shape of his life, right? But the biggest issue at K-State is likely not even going to be Avery Johnson. I think that secondary on defense, that secondary has a lot to answer for. How well does Matt Wells fit into? How well does Matt Wells, new offensive coordinator, former Utah State god, Matt Wells, the new offensive coordinator, how easy is it going to be for him to install his offense again and get the most out of an offense that, frankly, is going to have more weapons show up. Because you've obviously, I mean, you start looking at the depth chart for K-State, and you realize Jace Brown's probably your only legitimate, cemented, that guy knows how to be a stud at wide receiver. No question, you've got two of the better running backs, maybe the best backfield in the conference.
My word.
But you're going to have to figure out how many wide receivers do you have on that team, and how much running is Avery Johnson going to have to do, and how much running is too much running? Because again, he's going to have to throw you to a Big 12 championship, not run you to one.
Yeah, and I think if you look at their schedule, the way this is going to play out for them is obviously you're going to find out who they are in week 1, of course. But then, you get North Dakota, you get Army, and you get Arizona, and you get UCF. So that's about a month of easier, lesser opponents, I would say, with all due respect to those programs. And then you start to get into it when you get Baylor, TCU, Kansas, Tech, off week with Oklahoma State. Then you get Utah and Colorado. So, I just think that this team is fortunate in the sense that the schedule gets harder as they go along.
Yes.
But that's going to allow them to settle in. I mean, let's say that for whatever reason, you are 0-1 after Iowa State, right? You lose that game. I would figure you'd be 4-1 heading to Waco to play Baylor. So I just think
that's a huge game.
Yeah. I think that this season for K-State is very much contingent on your ability to win on the road. Because if you look at their road games, they are winnable. Baylor is a winnable game for you, right? Kansas is a winnable game.
I think their only questionable game is that late game at Utah. I mean, their road schedule is probably the easiest in the conference. Yeah. If you look at it, at Arizona, at Baylor, at Kansas. Now, Kansas is supposed to be notably better. At Oak State, who's going to be dreadful again, and then at Utah. And when I look at, teams like Iowa State's road schedule is Arkansas State, at Cincinnati, at Colorado, at TCU. So TCU becomes the TCU in Utah. And then I look at Utah, and this is a conversation that no team in no fan base in this conference wants to have. And I think that when you start looking at Utah's schedule, Utah's probably got amongst the contenders some of the most difficult games scheduled. I mean, you look at the fact that they open at UCLA. I have no idea what to expect out of UCLA. They can't possibly be shittier than they were last year. I don't think that's possible.
So don't even think about messing with me.
Right? Utah should run over UCLA. Right? But that's still a tougher road game. A Big Ten road opponent is more difficult than Iowa State or K-State's got. Then you're at West Virginia, which going to Morgantown is never going to be easy. They've got Rich Rodriguez. They've got a phenomenal home field advantage. I think those two road games are tougher than anybody else that we've talked about. At BYU is going to be a murder. At Baylor, who supposedly now, from what everybody's predicting, is going to be this unbelievable team. Utah has, I think, one of the most difficult road schedules in the entire conference. And I think that's why when we ask, hey, is Utah going to bounce back? Yes, there is no question in my mind that K-State is, I think, going to have their hands full when they go to Rice-Eccles, because I will sit here and again and tell you, and I don't care if you want to call me an idiot or a homer or call me whatever you want. I really don't care. Rice-Eccles Stadium is arguably the best home field advantage on the West Coast, and that includes you at Autzen Stadium in Eugene.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you go to Autzen, and it's a tough place to play. You go to Utah, you cannot hear yourself. You cannot feel your fingertips because it's so damn cold. And I'm talking about second to last week. What is that, the week of Thanksgiving? It's going to be cold. You're at altitude. It is probably going to be at night. K-State's going to have a very difficult time winning that game. I look at their other game, no doubt about it, it's that Texas Tech game. Because how did Texas Tech, and again, I'll put this up here, and you guys tell me, how did Texas Tech not get first place just handed to them with their offseason. If you look at this, Texas Tech got 3 championship votes, but they're 3 votes behind Kansas State. They're just on the offensive line, the changes they made in the trenches. Are you really going to argue with me that Texas Tech on paper isn't better than K-State?
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly the
wild.
problem with this, though. I think that what you just said there, on paper, Texas Tech is better, but people aren't buying it until they see it, which is why K-State is getting the votes. And I do think that that's fair, but I again, I have to say, like, if you reframe the question to who's got the most to lose if they don't win the conference, Texas Tech is number 1 on that list. Joey's ass is not going to be there if they don't win the conference. If you don't have a 10-win season in Lubbock, you kidding me right now? I mean, this guy's got to perform with all the money they've spent. That there's only one mission with all the money you've spent, which is a Big-12 championship and obviously a national championship
That's
run,
it.
a CFP berth, and ideally a national championship run. So to me, I look at, again, these rankings, and I think the shock reaction that you see across the internet and all the people that
the
look
interwebs,
at this, like everyone's like, oh my God, this, and oh my God, that. And I'm just sitting here looking at it, and you look at this, and if you can see the sentiment just screaming through the screen.
Do you guys buy into this? Here's what I buy into in this graphic, which again, this is the Big 12 coaches poll right here. I buy into these 7 teams, and really, I don't put much credence into Dave Aranda and Baylor. I think their schedule's a cupcake. I look at Utah, legit. I look at Tech, legit. Iowa State, K-State, Arizona State, legit. TCU, you better be, or Spike Dykes' kid is getting bounced. And I just don't believe that Dave Aranda is the guy to lead Baylor back to glory.
I think it's laughable that Utah got 0 championship votes. Was it 0 or was it 1?
0.
0, right?
I don't think it, but I don't actually think it is laughable. I think Utah was one of the most shockingly disappointing teams in all of college football last year.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking. I think all of us knew on some level or another. I think all of us knew Oak State was going to be very mediocre. Very mediocre. I don't think anybody thought they'd be winless. I think they can't go winless again. So they'll be better. But if you had to ask me, like, who do you think is the worst team in this league? Man, I have to think that at the bottom of this league, West Virginia is going to have to be there. Oak State's going to be there. Cincinnati. And I love my guy, Scott Satterfield. Cincinnati's got to be there.
UCF, I think, has some questions.
UCF is not going to be good.
Yeah.
That I would agree with. I think Arizona is going to be bad. UCF is probably the worst team in the league. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think the contenders for worst team in the league are Houston and UCF. Those two. To me, West Virginia.
I think Houston's going to be better than Arizona. West Virginia is going to be interesting. I'm a huge Rich Rod guy.
Mm-hmm.
I love me some Rich Rod. But I think it is going to be really interesting to see, like, what does Zach Alley bring to Morgantown? I mean, I thought that was one of the huge hires of the offseason. Do we buy into Rich Rod and Zach, and you start looking at, like, Jaheim White's going to have a Heisman Trophy kind of season for them not to be one of the bottom 3 teams in this league. Right? I mean, if we're just being honest about West Virginia, Jaheim White is going to have to be
A1.
Everything. Jalen Knighton played at SMU, which, according to SMU fans, means you're the greatest thing since sliced running back.
Clean cut, dude.
Right, but I think Oklahoma State's in contention for one of the worst teams in the league. Cincinnati, and then I actually think Houston is going to have a a nice bounce this season.
Yeah.
They're going to win some games you don't think they should. They were last in the Big 12 in offense last year, averaging 13.9 points a game, less than 5 yards per play.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be better. They're going to be better. And frankly, my biggest question is, where's Colorado going to end up? Will Colorado here's maybe the most ridiculous thing. Will Colorado be a top 10 team in the Big 12? One of the 10 best teams in the Big 12. Will Colorado be that?
Yeah, I think they will be.
Deion, his staff, and arguably he's built a staff that is only here to make young men into really good football players. And we saw last year, frankly, since he started coaching, his staff develops players. He's got talent. But can you replace Shedeur and Travis and expect to be better the year after you do that?
No, I don't think they're going to be better, but I don't think they're going to be, bottom, like worst 5 teams in the league. I think, to me, they're going to be right in the middle of the pack. We all know how chaotic these games get, and it's one play here or there. It's that old adage of like, hey, you just got to have, you're 3 plays away from winning this game, and I think Colorado goes through that a lot. And I think when you look at their schedule, you're talking about starting with Tech, then you get Delaware, then you're at Houston, and then you get Wyoming. So,
I think they will beat Georgia Tech because it's at Folsom. Delaware, they'll beat Houston, Wyoming for 4-0, and then BYU in Colorado is going to be their first real test. Now, Jake Retzloff is still not in the portal officially, but I think they start the season 5-0, and then at TCU will be their first loss. I think they'll be 5-1.
Yeah, and the problem is they're going to fall on their face because you're not beating Iowa State, you're not beating Utah, so you're going to lose 3 in a row.
You want to talk about getting your nuts stomped on?
Yeah.
How about BYU at TCU, Iowa State at Utah, and then you probably become bowl eligible when Arizona comes to town.
Mm-hmm.
At West Virginia, Arizona State, K-State. You got to finish with Arizona State and then at K-State. Who hates Colorado? Apparently everybody, because that is a really difficult schedule.
Yeah.
That is. And Arizona State,
they're going to be good.
They're going to be good, but how is Arizona State's schedule not more difficult? Northern Arizona, then they're at Mississippi State. They go to Starkville. Texas State.
Whoa, dude. Best team in Texas, bro. That Texas State.
They're going to be 3-0. At Baylor, 4-0. I think they have a chance to lose at home to TCU. At Utah, Texas Tech, Houston, at Iowa State, West Virginia, at Colorado, Arizona. Not an easy schedule.
No,
I'd rather have that schedule than
hard,
Colorado, though. I could be wrong. But my point is, I think when you start looking at Deion Sanders, he's not a guy that's going to tank a season. He's got too much talent, and he's a really good football coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, I know what do you guys always say? Well, they don't win games. They're here for clicks, and they don't recruit. He can't recruit. Well, apparently he can recruit, and he can portal, and I think he's done that.
This is his first year, without Shedeur and Travis. So I think this is the first year you get a real good idea of what this guy can do as a true, regular, just like anybody else football coach. I have to say, not having your kid on the roster, starting at quarterback for you is a big change. It is. There's a loss of cohesiveness there. There's a loss of natural expectation and understanding. Bringing both your quarterbacks to media day and saying you don't know which one's going to start, I think that kind of speaks to where the offense is at. Not that it's in a bad place, but just it's not in the same place that it already would have been this time last year, right? This time last year came to media day and Shedeur was the guy, and that was that.
I think it's going to be almost impossible to keep Julian Lewis off the field. I think if you're smart, you probably start Caden Salter, right? But Julian Lewis is going to be amazing. And you just look at what Robert Livingston did with Colorado's defense last year. You guys understand they held teams to 5 yards a snap? That defense held teams to 5 yards a snap. I think they're going to surprise some people. And I think DJ McKinney is probably going to be one of the best defensive backs in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see. I'm curious. Who do you guys think? Give me your, in the comment section, the best team in the Big 12 is. Who do you think it is?
I would probably, I want to say Texas Tech, just because you have so much talent.
Baron Morton.
How do you not? And you've got Baron Morton.
I think he's the best quarterback in the league now.
How do you not? How are you not the best team? How are you not the most dangerous team? But I do agree that there is this factor that Joey is unproven. He is. There's no getting around that. So
when you're sweating and you're under pressure and you're in a close game, do you trust Joey McGuire to do the right thing? Yeah, I don't know either. And
I want to say that they are the best team. I really do want to say that. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I can say that. I really don't think I can say it. I am much more of the mind that I think it's got to be. I don't know. I want to say Utah. Utah's got the best defense. I have no question about that. Is Utah? Are we ready to crown them offensively? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know how.
Yeah,
offense is going to look.
I don't think we can just be like, yeah, Utah's just. I mean, yes, I think they're out of.
How is that? Is that better? How is that, friends? Is that, why don't you pull up the... Okay, so my wife showed up at the studio and immediately decided that her AirPod Pros needed to be on and be the preeminent audio source of the show. And so there we go. Now we're back. So, so I just work here, man. I'm behind the scenes trying to fix it. So what happened is, if you weren't hearing what I was saying, my wife showed up at the studio and she somehow, for whatever reason, her AirPod Pros connected to my Mac Mini, which is what we run the show on a Mac studio. It's called a Mac Studio.
Yeah.
And her AirPod Pros connected to it, which essentially said, hey, we're going to listen to whatever she's listening to, and you're not going to hear us.
You have to check it before you wreck it.
Blame Mrs. Monty for that. Don't blame me. But we are back. Anyway, all right. So in the comments section, let's reset it. Who do you think is the best team in the Big 12? Jake?
I'm going to go with Arizona State. I think Arizona State has proven in big games that, Kenny, I think, has proven himself in big games. I think you have a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback. And the only question you have is, what does the offense look like now that you don't have Scat? So to me, I think that team,
That's a big question.
That team, I feel like, because the way I see this, the landscape in the Big 12 is what teams have the most of that change that they have to figure out to win ball games. Utah's got a lot that changed, right? You've got obviously BYU seemingly has a lot that changed at quarterback, right? Obviously, he's not officially in the portal, but I think we all agree, he's not going to be there. So you have a lot that changed there. You look at K-State. I sit here and I say, okay, well, we kind of know what that team is, but again, you got to go out and prove that you can beat the best teams in the league, and you haven't done that yet. So
yeah, I'm not gonna hop on the Arizona State bandwagon. You have to prove leadership in that program on the field. Cam Scatterboot, they don't win half of their games if he's not being himself. They don't beat Utah, frankly, without Cam Scatterboot. So I'm not going to hitch my wagon to that. I'm happy to say, hey, should they be the default vote? Yes, they went to the college football playoff last year. They won the conference. I'm telling you right now, on paper, I'm probably picking Texas Tech. If you want to know who I believe, I think Utah is going to have a really difficult time because of their schedule. I think K-State has an interesting schedule. So I think one of the secondary teams in this league has a real chance to step up and surprise people.
Do you believe?
I just don't know that, for instance, do any of us believe that Avery Johnson is going to be able to be that dude who in October and November you can say, okay, it's 3rd and 17, make a throw to win us a game. Because I'm telling you, I saw him 4 or 5 times last year have no ability to figure out what the defense was doing. You can disguise him, and if he has not learned how to read a defense, they're not going to win because he's got the arm talent, he's got the leg talent, the guy is physical. I just don't believe for a second that he's got the mental acuity to read a defense when the game is on the line. That's what scares me about him.
He's never had to, and that's the hard part, is that he's gotten to this level, and he has not added that to his repertoire yet.
My caveat will be with Utah. If Dampier and Jason Beck, the offensive coordinator, and Kyle Whittingham said yesterday, Jason Beck is fully in control of the offense. He essentially said, I'm hands off. We've never heard Kyle Whittingham say anything like that. But then again, he's never had a prolific offense at Utah, in my opinion. And he's got that now.
Mm-hmm.
If Devin Dampier comes in and he does not turn the football over, he will be the best quarterback in this league. He'll be better than Hoover. He'll be better than Baron Morton. Save nobody. You mark my words, if that cat is who he was last year, and I know that's a huge step up, but what did we see in this league last year? How many 50-point games did we see in this league last year? How many shootouts did we see in this league last year? A lot. And the one thing I know is if Devin Dampier comes in here and Joey isn't better on defense, and if Aranda's not better on defense, and because as good as Baylor could be, they made some really stupid plays on defense. If they tighten that up, Devin Dampier is still a better quarterback than they are a defense. K-State, huge questions in the secondary. I'm telling you, Utah's got the goods to do it if Devin Dampier's that guy. Because you look at this defense and Smith Snowden and Lander Barton, and that defense is stacked. Dude, that's a top 5 defense in the entire country.
Yes.
I don't know what Devin Dampier is on offense, and that's why I can't unequivocally say Utah's going to win the conference. And I tend to lean with you. If you're gonna default somebody, it's Arizona State. If you believe much what I believe,
mm-hmm.
I think Utah will win the conference.
I wouldn't I don't think that's far off. I think if they can get it right on offense, they're going to have it right on defense, and usually their special teams is pretty solid. They should be a good team, and I also think that the dynamic of Kyle Whittingham being at the end of the road of his career and wanting to and being unwilling to retire off of what happened last year also supports this concept of, hey, he's clearly going all in to do everything he can do to have a strong season. So again, there are Utah haters and Utah lovers. I'm not going to sit here and doubt a man that's been doing this 20 years and knows how to build a football team. I think he's more than capable of coming out here and beating wholesale ass the whole season if they can stay healthy. But again, it's still a question. We've never seen Utah have a prolific offense that can match the dominance that their defense provides.
We've never seen a Utah quarterback combine for 4,000 yards, not under Kyle Whittingham, combined for 4,000 yards. And 31 touchdowns.
Yeah. Like, you've not had that.
And I think it's really possible. He's got Devin Dampier, the quarterback at Utah. And it's July 10th. Devin Dampier's got the best offensive line in the conference. He's got a wide open offense. It's very possible for him to put up 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. And if he does that, Utah will win the conference. It's an outstanding season. But, bro, he did that at New Mexico last year. He put up 4,000 yards and 31 touchdowns. He's capable of doing it. You don't have to like it, but I'm telling you, he's legit. And Jason Beck's legit. So, I want to tell you Utah's going to win the conference. I need to see it first. I need to ask me September 15th.
So you're going with Tech then?
I'm probably going with Arizona State as hey, who are you picking on July 10th? Arizona State, great. Okay, fine. I think Texas Tech's got the most talented roster, and I think Utah's capable of winning every game they play. And I'm not sure I can say that but about 3 teams in this league.
Yeah.
How many teams in this Big 12 are capable of winning every game they play? Bottom half of this league is not. Colorado's not. Kansas is not. Certainly Arizona, Houston, Cincinnati, they're not. I don't believe BYU is without Jake Retzloff. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't. So I think that when you look at Kyle Whittingham, and hey, by the way, MFers, does a motherfucker get some credit?
Oh, no.
What did I tell you about Kyle Whittingham when you were all like, oh, the old man's lost it? Okay, well, apparently not. Because I said, hey, had they had a run through the conference last year, Kyle Whittingham would be fishing or riding a motorcycle somewhere.
What the fuck are you talking about?
And what did he say yesterday? Well, I can't go out like that. If we had won a championship, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. I'm just telling you, the guy's not going anywhere on a losing season.